fear is false evidence appearing real. I feel like fear is just a testament to something that you probably should push yourself to do, because overcoming your fear is part of our development here as spirits. And so all
Mm.
of us are ready to go at any time. You all got to live like we're terminally ill. So we can't say, well, I don't know if nobody ever succeeded in life going, I don't know if I could do it. I'm not sure if I'm good enough. So allowing yourself to just be you, release your fear, and step into your purpose, everything starts to align.
If you're listening in on this podcast, you are going to get so much from this episode. But Laura Lynn, we're really, really
Yes.
curious to dive into who you are, your story, and how you've got to this point right now.
So, well, first of all, I'm going to dab my eye one more time, because when you two, that was so beautifully said, what you just said, and your alignment and your process. And that's exactly how my story goes. So when I was younger, I lived with my grandfather up until the age of 10. And when he passed, I started questioning departure and what we call death, because I was curious as to where he went and what happened. And so when I started asking about this and learning about angels, my mother said, we got to go take you to your cousin, Mary Lynn. I said, who's Mary Lynn? I hadn't seen her in many years. She goes, she's a medium. I said, what's a medium? She goes, well, she can talk to the angels. And I said, you can do that? And she says, yeah, you could. Well, she does it. So we're going to go see her. So she flew me out to Arkansas at the ripe old age of 11. And I went out there and I talked to Mary Lynn all about angels and spirits. And she taught me about meditation. She taught me about metaphysics. She taught me about our guides and teachers. She taught me about crystals and took me to my first psychic fair, where I got my first deck, which is still here in my desk, that I've had for over 30 years. But in that process of starting to learn about that, I became fascinated by it. And so I went on with my life and grew up. She was in Arkansas, I was in Ohio, and went and got my degree in early childhood education. I taught kindergarten and second grade for over 10 years. And in that process, I got to be on the Wheel of Fortune in the middle of being a teacher. And that allowed me to pay off my student loans and get a divorce, which led me into development of my mediumship, because I knew that I couldn't just quit teaching and go be a medium. When Mary Lynn came back later in my life and said, are you ready to be a medium? And I thought, uh-oh, I'm teaching second grade. How am I? Yeah, okay, sure. I'm going to be a medium. She's like, no, you're going to be a minister. You're going to meditate. You're going to be a medium. I was like, oh, wow. But here I am all these years later. It took me 3 years of study with her. And through studying with her, I became an ordained spiritualist minister. I did my Sunday services at a church with her. And, in the process, I got locked up mentally, because I was going through a divorce and I was going through a lot of mental health issues while I'm trying to finish up teaching, transition out of a marriage. We were moving from Florida to New York because he was in the military, and there was a lot going on. And I couldn't get past a certain level of my mediumship. And I realized it's because I didn't have enough inner work. And so I found a College of Metaphysical Studies. That is now my College of Metaphysical Studies. And I've been there for over the last decade studying with them, and through development with the college and Dr. Reverend Karen Brooks from the college, who just handed me the gauntlet, I guess you call what you call for the college, but the presidency. Through them, I learned about my inner awareness, my mental health. And by tuning into myself and my soul, I was able to open myself up more to mediumship. And so I left second grade and started over 10 years ago doing readings. And now here I am, and I am so blessed to have, over 400 people on my wait list and clients, and be teaching about metaphysical studies, teaching meditation, and helping others as well. So it's been a long journey, and it's been a wild ride, but that's what my book tells kind of the story about, is my awakening and the mental health process that
Mm,
helped me get there.
that's wild. It's a wild
Yeah.
story. But also, like, I was on your page today, Laura Lynn,
Hmm.
and I saw that Wheel of Fortune reel, and
Hmm.
immediately was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And we talk about manifestation a lot on this podcast.
Yes. Yes.
And at that point, you had described in the reel, you had described where you were at before
Hmm.
going on the Wheel of Fortune. Can you share a little bit about that journey for you on that, like what that showed you, that part of your life?
So, at that point, my ex-husband and I at that point had been together since we were 16 years old. And I tell, a lot of stories about my growth in my book through the processes of mental health and
Mm.
suicide attempts when I was younger and things like that. And so when I was at home as a mom and he was gone with the military a lot, it can get to you. being indoors and not having your spouse there and, and doing a lot on your own. But I see now that God was preparing me. They were
Mhm.
getting me ready because I was about to do it on my own, like I have been for the past 6 years. And
Mhm.
so it was almost like getting ready of being able to get strong by myself. But in the process, I realized that our energies, as I started to develop in my mediumship and like I started to want to change, there wasn't support there. And so I was in this enlightenment stage, and it's hard when your energy starts shifting to stay with the energies of others. That's why so many people drop out of our life. It's because your energy doesn't match anymore. And so I was feeling my energy shift, but his wasn't. And so that made us grow apart even more. And so I was to a point where I had gained a lot of weight. I was just very unhappy. I cried a lot. I didn't feel that connection anymore. And I knew that, it was getting pretty bad, with each other. And so I knew I had to get out of it. And I had no options to pay $50,000 worth of student loans that I needed to be a teacher. Getting 26 or $30,000 a year as a teacher wasn't going to cut it. How could I ever get divorced? I mean, income, my everything was all through him. So I started to like dwell on it. And I was like, what can I do that I can, win a lot of money all at once to do this and to like do this? And it just kind of came to me. And I still say to this day, it was my papa, the one I lived with before he departed. And I took good care of him. He called me his nurse. I gave him his diabetic shots and everything. We watched the Wheel of Fortune. And he would always call me Vanna White. Well, this is back when Chick was like actually physically turning the letters. Okay. There was no touch screen. Okay. That's how old I am. So she was turning the letters. And he'd go, hey, Vanna White, come on, watch your show. He'd tell me. So Papa pops in. I'm like, I could go on that because, I'm not doing Jeopardy. That's for sure. So I was like, I could do the Wheel of Fortune. So I went and I auditioned. I dragged my brother with me. Or actually, I did the application and, everything checked out. Are you a teacher? Yes. Are you a military family? Yes. Everything was like, yes. So that like bumps you up on the resume. So I flew me out and I auditioned. And a couple weeks later, I got the notice that I made it. And then so many months later, they call you and you go on. And I just pledged when I went on that I was going to do well. I was excited to be there. I had great energy. I wasn't doing this yet. I was teaching second grade. I was teaching very
Mm.
poor children at the time, the lowest of the lows in Bradenton, Florida, the greatest kids in the world. And that humbled me so much in that process too. And I promised them, and I told my principal, if I win, I'm taking them to Chuck E. Cheese. The whole class, I need a bus. We're going. I'm taking them, treating them all Chuck E. Cheese. Never been Chuck E. Cheese. So they, half of them learned English in kindergarten. Like they're beautiful. I just love them so much. And if they see this, I'd be so excited because they still connect with me. But, I had good intention. I had high energy. I just wanted to have a good time. I took my mom, who was now my best friend, but a long history of alcoholism to get there. You grow apart to come together. And now she's my best friend. I take her for good energy and it all matched. And so there I am at Wheel of Fortune wishing everyone well. And I felt my little cousin in spirit give me that answer at the end there that I got so quickly. I had no idea what it was. I just heard fight song. So I just said it. I was like, you can see me in the video. It happens so fast. I'm like, fight song? I had no idea. And he's like, how did you do that? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know what just happened. So, Mary Lynn told me, think of your spirits while you're there. But I didn't train in this yet. I just kept thinking, okay, Grammy, Grandpa, everybody coming. And so, yeah, when he flipped it, the winning prize, and it said
Mhm.
$50,000, I said, there's my exit. And here I am talking to
Wow.
you
Yeah.
because yeah, couldn't stay in that energy. He told me to get my head out of my ass and keep being a teacher because you're never gonna make it as a medium. Oh, but look at me now, so here we are. But that's all
Bring
manifestation. It was all law of attraction. And now I know
Yeah.
that. So I use the Wheel of Fortune as a teach and preach thing. Be like, well, no, they're just lucky and get on the Wheel of Fortune. No, I think I really manifested it. I think God knew,
Mm.
prepared me. They lined me up and said, here, you believe it, you can do it, you're doing good things with it. I didn't spend it on myself. I didn't spend it on clothes. I spent it on my children to go to Chuck E. Cheese, and we did go. And then I got my divorce. And
Ooh,
so
such an incredible story, Laura Lynn.
so
And
beautiful.
I think it also is such a testament to what you're saying is the law of attraction, manifestation, like it is real. And I listened to your story too before on the reel that you shared. And there was a point in there when you talked about going to LA to shoot for the episode
Mhm,
and you went in there with that attitude of gratitude just
mhm.
to be there for the experience, for the opportunity. And you
Right.
were, giving everybody, all the other contestants, like, good luck,
Oh, yeah.
But you talked about if you had gone in there with like nerves and, oh, what if I don't win? What if I
Yeah,
fail? What
right.
if I flop on television? Then I wouldn't have had the experience that I would have had. I wouldn't have probably won.
Right.
And I think what you pointed out there, it's so real because I think that for so many of us who have these opportunities given to us, right? Or
Mhm.
like that preparation meets that luck or that opportunity, that door. And sometimes we freeze, we're terrified, we doubt
Right.
ourselves, we
Right.
the insecurities come up, the fears come up. So, what piece of advice would you give to our listeners, our women who are tuning in? What piece of advice would you give to them if they are going through something right now where they're having to take a bet on themselves? They're having to step into something new. They're walking away from maybe a partnership. They're walking away from a 30-year long career. Like, who knows? But they're being required to stepping into a new opportunity or something that is stretching them. What advice would you have for them?
Well, one of my favorite, I think it's called an acronym for fear, is false evidence appearing real. And I talk about that. I have a whole chapter on releasing fear and letting it go because I feel like fear is just a testament to something that you probably should push yourself to do because overcoming your fear is part of our development here as spirits. And so all
Mm,
of us are ready to go at any time. You all got to live like we're terminally ill. So we can't say, well, I don't know if nobody ever succeeded in life going, I don't know if I could do it. I'm not sure if I'm good enough. So allowing yourself to just be you, release your fear and step into your purpose, everything starts to align. Releasing your fears creates the alignment in your life that's needed for your pursuit forward. And so I always say, screw it. Go for it. Like, I go out to go on the stage to do readings or do a talk. I'm just going to go, like I got this. And there's something that's created in your self-confidence and your self-awareness to say, I can do this. I approve of myself. The great Louise Hay said, I approve of myself. But she's a wonderful author. And so there's just this satisfaction that can come in your soul when you just stop accepting what's not acceptable and create the boundaries that are needed for success in your own life. Because sometimes I think we're so worried about taking care of everybody else, especially as moms, especially as
yeah.
women, that if you don't put the energy into yourself, how do you have it to give to other people? I mean, that's why even when you're on an airline and they say when you get your mask down, do it for yourself before you do it for your kids because or before you do it for anybody else, because you got to make sure you're okay to take care of everybody else. And so I just believe that fear is a state of mind and believing that we are stuck in a certain place. We can't see ourselves doing something different. Sometimes it has to relate to our upbringing and not being encouraged that we could do something different. A lot of times our parents or whoever is around us as we're being raised instill certain fears in us. I have an ex that had cancer at one point and everything scared him when we dated. Eating certain foods, he didn't like it because it reminded him of his medicine when he got treatment. Being in, certain places because, the embedment of his mind of like everything's, bacteria or contaminated, those are kind of fears that can get embedded. And so you kind of have to look at the root of where it's coming from and start to heal from that. Does that make sense? So like we are not our parents. We are not this thing. We are created in this, like we go through that because of them, not in spite of it. So where are you gonna grow or are you gonna succumb to it? And so I think that releasing our fears is just the gateway to all the happiness you can imagine in your life. You just gotta you
Mhm.
gotta get you gotta get through it.
I wanna get metaphysical with you for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. Or wet my
As you're
whistle.
talking about fears and being correlated with, like, more of those deeper rooted, maybe traumas
Yes.
or experiences that we have from a younger age, how can someone uncover what that root is? Like, if they see themselves constantly sabotaging themselves, fear allowing fear to keep them stuck from capitalizing on opportunities or moving forward to with the things that they really wanna pursue, and they see this as a pattern, how can one uncover how to get to that root and what type of and I think for I said metaphysical because I know how energy, emotions, and things can get stuck in the body, and so
Yeah.
but I wanna pick your brain on that. Would love to hear a little bit on how someone can uncover those.
I feel like, well, first of all, one thing I actually really encourage for everybody's therapy. I see my own therapist. I love her to pieces. I actually met her through doing readings, but it was amazing our connection. And when you can find somebody that you can talk to easily, like a friend, like a person. So if you find someone you're not comfortable, go to another person. do what you can until you find your people to talk to. But I think that that can really uncover a lot about yourself that you don't even realize. And the other thing, aside from like a person, like psychology, would be meditation. Meditation can unlock and unroot like a
Mhm.
lot of the things that are blocking through your chakras, your kundalini. Like it all kind of is like festered in there. So by getting down to this is what caused this in my life, and I'm at peace with it, is what you can release to move forward. So instead of saying, I went through all these things and all these bad
Mhm.
things happen to me, and then they're all just going to keep happening. Ugh, that's like my number one, like, no, 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 no. Let's switch it up. Let's switch it up. Let's say, you know what? I don't know, I'm going to swear on this one, but I think of people in my past and that weren't supportive or the energy change, whatever. And this is my saying for it is I kind of say like, well, thank you for being an asshole because you made me the best
Uh-huh.
version of myself that I
Uh-huh.
can ever be. I'm not broken. Kelly Clarkson, I'm, broken but beautiful. Like it all goes together. It's all like it's all a combination. Your life experiences is your soul growth. So if you're
Mhm.
going through harder times or you've been through a lot, you're supposed to be tested because oh guy, I love to say God only gives you what you can handle. And that's really true because you're meant to go through certain lifetimes and certain things. And so I'm really big on the past life regressions. And Dr. Brian Weiss wrote a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. And it's an amazing story. It sounds, at first, when my mom told me Many Lives, Many Masters, I was like, what is this? It sounded funny, but I read it and he was a psychologist that started doing hypnotism to help people, or psychiatrist, I believe, to help people. And accidentally sent one of his patients into a past life regression. And through that, all her anxieties, all her fears started to be released through these regressions. And he realized that this is real and then started doing quantum physics, metaphysics. So his book's amazing, but that opened me up a lot to the idea that what we're going through now, if you can find a good past life regressionist or you can find yourself meditating in your own, finding your own history, kind of like what you're feeling from within, like, for example, I believe that what we've done before, we kinda have to bring back if you don't finish it. So for
Mhm.
myself, I was a very bad alcoholic in my last life. I made everybody's life very miserable with alcohol. So as I come back, every single person I know between my grandparents, my parents, my like everybody I know has had an alcohol issue. And that's something I battled a lot with addictions and alcohol. But I recognize through a regression and through myself and my own history, and whether people believe that or not is your own thing. You got to kind of do your own thing. But I recognize, okay, that's another part. I mean, they even talk about the fear of the dark and claustrophobia. It goes back to
Mhm.
caveman days. We talk about that in one of my college courses at my college,
Mm.
that it goes back to caveman days because it's an embedded past life history fear that's going to be coming with you. And so you have to differentiate. We talk about at my school rational and irrational fears, and how rational fear,
Mhm.
you get robbed in your house, you're going to lock your doors, you're going to get a security system, that makes sense. But an irrational fear would be checking your doors and locks 55 times before you go to bed, after you get robbed, or becoming overly paranoid. So I think it's that balance. But I think if you can do therapy, do meditation, treat yourself to mental health, like I want to say almost like a finding a sanctuary for that and finding your own place to be at comfort with your anxiety, with your depression, understanding why you're there and that it's okay for you to feel that way. We're all spirits having a human experience. So once you can balance your human experience and understand that you're in this process and not wallow in it, but grow from it, and all of a sudden your spiritual experience will emerge. But if you get stuck in that mental and people say, I don't know what my purpose is, well, that's because you haven't
Mm.
aligned yet. Once you align here, then the spiritual experience can happen. And that's what happened to me. I couldn't find myself till I aligned. And once you
Mm.
center yourself, your fears, you know, I've done enough readings and been through enough sessions with people losing children, losing spouses, losing parents, that I've just learned to say, it is what it is. Just keep going. If you constantly live in fear, you're not going to get anywhere. So if you want to make the second half of your life better, you got to let the first half go. Yeah.
I actually, like, feel all of that because a lot of things have been coming up for past issues, past things that have stopped me from moving forward, and I know a lot of women listening, if you're listening right now, there's always something in the past that stops you from moving forward,
Right.
and it could be like it could come in the form of overthinking because sometimes we take all those things that the failures that have happened to us subconsciously, and we kind of overthink our
Yep.
process moving forward, and the women listening right now, if they're trying to like go to the next level, they're trying to understand, okay, well, why am I not moving forward the way other people are? Why is this person able to do it and I'm not? And what you're saying is like it's a deeper thing. Like You've got to like look at therapy, look at meditation, look at changing things up in your life.
Yes. Right.
Because I also think that what you said was like, to that, I take it as like we're kind of like stepping into this new version of us by
Mhm.
eliminating some old
Yes.
baggage, old identities. And so for somebody that is listening right now, she's listening right now and she's like, okay, but I don't know what's for me. And I know people talk about the woo, like
Yeah.
you know. But
Mm.
it's not as easy as that sometimes, right? It's not as easy as
Mhm.
saying, I know what my next step is. I know I'm going to be where I need to be 10 years from now. It's so much harder than that because
Right.
we don't really know. But internally, how would you give advice to somebody who's like meditating, doing all the things,
Yeah.
but she really wants to dig into her knowing of what is meant for her, intuition versus logic? That's where I'm trying to get to, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have a process for yourself that you use where you know, okay, I know the next step? Because
Yes.
sometimes the destination is not where we need to focus. It's like the
Right.
process. So do you have any advice on that for women?
I catch myself in how I talk to myself every day.
Mm.
Self-talk and self-worth and self-confidence, those are the 3 main things you all us ladies need to work on. Some of us have been conditioned to think you can't do this without a partner, or like, you need somebody to help you do this or help you do that. And when you find your own independence and say, yes, I can, and I will do this and I can do this, I think it starts with enlightening yourself and just believing in yourself, because that was something that was really hard for me, as I was always
Mhm.
down on myself. I was never good enough. I was never thin enough. I always compared myself to other women. The men in my life didn't help with that very much. And I've noticed that I've gone through the same cycle of men in my life and the same narcissistical
Mhm.
patterns, because it's me that has to break it. So we're all sitting here going, well, I'm just waiting for this stuff to come.
Mhm.
But if you don't put any energy behind it, you're going to keep waiting. See, that mindset, the law of attraction, if you keep going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? You're never going to find it. You got to say, I'm here in the now. I'm good with today. The future, you can't control it. That's what gives you anxiety, is trying to create the future.
Mhm.
And your past, you can't change it. And that's what gives you depression. You can't go back and change it. You're right here and right now. And so even today, yesterday, I keep catching myself thinking things that don't matter, about this, about that, about things that are draining. Like, that's not worth my energy. So catching yourself and how you're thinking and what you're
Mhm.
saying, it's an energy. It's like a little radio tower. You're like a little tower. It goes off you, bounces back, comes right back at you. And so that law of attraction is definitely real. People call it karma. But I think that if you say,
Mhm.
one day at a time, it's all about planting a seed, like you said, like where they're doing the things, but it does take the step. It does take trying. Like this book tour, for example, is a lot. There's management and travel costs, and you got to sell your tickets, you got to
Right.
market. It's not just some simple process to go through. And if I don't talk to myself and say, you can do this, you've got this, you're going to change people's lives, you're going to make it for the better, then I'm not going to get through it. And so I think that,
Mhm.
to give yourself the credit, if you are meditating, ladies, if you are starting to put boundaries up, you're not controlling. Don't listen to them. You have boundaries, and that's important to have. And so
Mhm.
knowing that you're independent, you're beautiful, you can do this. And every time you catch yourself thinking something negative, or you can't do it, or going into a history or a memory that's negative, catching yourself and saying, no, I'm here now. I'm rich in life. I'm rich in money. I'm rich in love. I'm safe. I'm good. And I'm going to have a great day. Just do today. Because everybody's trying to figure it all out. But once you just live in the now, that's a great concept from Eckhart Tolle. Once you
Mhm.
just live in the
Yeah.
now, everything, we're all trying to like go forwards and backwards and all of, just do today. When you're in the shower, just be in the shower. Feel the hot water.
Yeah.
Feel the rumor. I
Yeah.
think everybody, you're see the quote, what you were saying is like you're stressing the fear
Yeah.
of where's my purpose?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
don't have to. You're doing it. You're fine. Once you get aligned, you're going to open
Mhm.
yourself up to that. I think always wondering where it is you're always going to lack. So if you're
Right.
I
just saying,
really
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love everything that you just shared on that, Laura Lynn, about just being present, being in the now, because there's so much power behind being present. Because when you're present,
Mhm.
you allow yourself to go into that alignment, and when you're
Right.
aligned,
Mhm.
you give that space for that energy to flow in, for downloads to come through, for so much to happen. The question I have though, and it's because I know a lot of the ladies who tune in and listen to the podcast. They are either high achievers or recovering high achievers. And as a high achiever, you are constantly working to the next goal, the next thing. And that's just how our brains operate. So what you're speaking to is a little bit of, okay, if I just stay present and I align, the next step is going to reveal itself.
Right.
And then I allow myself to, if the fear comes up, I can feel the fear, but I move anyways. And I allow the process to unfold and I trust the journey and I just move one step at a time. But the part that I actually have a question to you for is, what if someone wants to work, they have a vision, they have a goal, and then all of a sudden they start to think, okay, if I want to be at XYZ in 1 year from now, I got to start thinking about how can I reverse engineer that? Because I know a lot of our overachievers, they think this way. They think in terms of steps and planning and how do I get there? So how does one who is like a recovering overachiever, who's just go, 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 goal setter, right? But allow that balance, to find that balance of the universe creator to be able to show up with the how, for the universe to come in and give us the little surprises and the little things along the journey without us having to engineer the entire journey. Do you know what I'm putting?
Yeah, you got to let go of control. That's really important, because when you're holding expectations to yourself, you're lining yourself up for disappointment if you don't meet those expectations. So a lot of problem is people have these expectations, and when you're met here, then those don't align, and then that creates disappointment, which makes you go, maybe I can't do it. Maybe I can't run this show. Maybe I can't do that business because you had an expectation you didn't meet. I'll tell you, I was ready maybe 2 years into my mediumship professionally to do this. Go big, go home, start doing TV shows, whatever. And now here I am 13 years later, and I'm like, oh no, I was not ready then. Now I'm ready.
Yeah.
So when you have a block in your path, trust that the universe, spirit, mother, father, God, whatever source you want to call it, just trust that it's like the railroad tracks. You're going down, you're doing your thing, and then they pull the damn lever, and you're like on a spiral taking a turn. You're like, oh damn, I wasn't expecting that. And it's like, all those twists and turns, like if you would have told me a year ago I was in a completely happy relationship, ready to get married, ready to go, I had a reading with a medium, she didn't say a word, everything was fine. If she would have told me, hey, you're dating a narcissistical liar who you're not picking up psychically because your heart's leading you over your intuition, I wouldn't listen to her. See, I had to go through that path. I had to go through the heartbreak. I had to go through the pain, because that's what helped me awaken again. Awakenings don't just happen once, and they're not this beautiful light that comes out of the sky. It's not that. It hurts. Painful awakenings. And so for women, I think that it's just so important that you learn how to accept all your feelings, but don't get stuck in them. So have your day, sleep, cry, scream in your pillow, do whatever you need to do. And then the next day you get up and you keep your ass moving. But I think that, when you limit the expectations of yourself to a year or to this or to that, sometimes it's like you're trying to control your own destiny. And I think that the most important part is being grateful in what you have right now, and that will attract more to be grateful for. So again, you're putting this out there, but we don't know if we'll be here in a year. We don't know if we're going to do this. It's good to have the goals and to have them outlined, but don't put all your, what does our grandmother say? Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Eggs in one basket.
Make
Yeah.
sure that you understand if something's getting messed up, it's getting realigned for you, because I wasn't supposed to
100%.
be there. I really thought I was.
Yeah.
And I now know that I couldn't. That's why I joke about it. If I could read my own life, I'd be at a casino. And I wouldn't go through these relationships. But I have to, just like everybody else. We all have
Yeah.
to go through these lessons to become stronger. So women, it's so healthy for you to put those expectations on yourself in a healthy way, but don't be bound to them, because sometimes the universe has other plans for us.
Detours, right? We
Yeah, very
live
important.
by
Detours
that,
are
I
important.
feel like ever since we've been best friends, the same thing has happened to us over time. And what we realized was, even though we had our setbacks, we look at them as like not failures. They were lessons or detours.
Yes.
There were things that led us here right now. We used to sit in our living room, Laura Lynn, doing shows like this together without
I
a
used to be in my
camera.
closet giving
Right.
$25 ratings. So I didn't have to get bothered by my kids, my little kids. And everything. I was like hiding in my closet with a tray and my tarot cards and a
Yeah.
headset, like doing
Yeah.
readings. And now here I am reading for the Wiggles in Australia and people in
Right.
Africa. And it's amazing. And I wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't go through all the things I went through.
Mhm.
And so I look at it as I'm grateful for the ups, ups, the downs, the people who hurt me. I hurt others, taking responsibility, forgiveness
Yes.
is so
Yes.
important for all of
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is
Mm,
the key to release you. Whether you
mhm.
got to forgive yourself or you got to forgive someone else, you just got to take it what it was and keep moving forward. It's such a beautiful thing. So that's just another concept I talk about is that's a big one is you got
Yeah.
to learn how to forgive people because when you hold it, it affects you and that's not fair to you.
It affects you more than the
Yeah,
other
it's
person.
not for them to forgive, it's for you. It's for you to heal. Yeah, because you deserve the peace.
Yeah.
You're not condoning it. That's what people get all messed up on, is they
Right.
think you're condoning with the, "Oh, I'm okay with it." Like, no, it's not you're not condoning it. You're saying, "Well, hey, thanks for teaching me that. I'm not gonna do that again." And, you move on. And, but if
Yeah.
you dwell in it, then that's your choice. And that's another thing I talk about a lot is people don't make us feel anything. We
Mhm.
choose to react to that. That was a really hard concept for me to swallow. I wanted to say, "Oh no, all you drive me crazy. You made me this way. You hurt me that way. You created this pain in me." But actually, I'm just reacting to what they did and I
Mhm.
choose. I'm in my own body. I'll choose how I want to react. And that's why it's so important. You
Yeah.
ever see like
Yeah.
was it Gail when she was doing the interview and he like flipped out and started yelling at her? I can't remember who that was. Was that R. Kelly or something? But she was like he was like flipping out. Gail, Oprah's friend, was doing an
Gail's friend.
interview with that. Do you remember
Oh,
that?
her friend Gail. I didn't see that, no.
She
But
was
I've
doing
seen
an interview
stuff
with
like
the
that in
gentleman who
Hollywood
got
every
like
day.
arrested for bad things. He like jumped up and started screaming at her and yelling at her
Wow.
and hooting and hollering, and she sat just like this.
I love that.
She
I
didn't
love
move.
that.
She didn't get mad. She
You know
didn't get
what?
angry. She just waited for him.
I feel like that's when you're secure in yourself though. Like I
Right.
feel like
Don't
okay, so
react.
like if I'm having a fight with somebody close to me or whatever and
Mhm.
they're spewing things at me. I know
Mhm.
what's true to me and
Right.
I can react or I can not react or I could just choose, right? Like you said, choose. You get to choose how you react to it. You can't
Right.
control other people's behavior. You also get to choose who is in your circle. You also get to
That's
choose
important.
yeah, and I think that's something that we've had to in order for us to elevate into this version of us, had
Mhm.
to say goodbye to people, and I
Yeah.
think it's for our it's not because we don't like you or, we wish you ill will, it's just something that is the energy of
Yeah. It's kinda
that's
like what Laura Lynn was
weighing you
saying
down,
about
right? Like,
her.
keeping you stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and kinda like what you were saying earlier to Laura Lynn about, you and your ex-husband. You guys
Right.
were on 2 different
Yeah.
energies, right? You were
Yeah. Yep.
growing, you were changing, and so and I do believe that. I think that when we are growing and we're
Mhm.
evolving, our energy changes. And so that can be really painful at times, especially when
It can.
people don't understand it. They're like, why is this person not reaching out to me anymore? Or maybe
Mhm.
it's the opposite, right? But I think that it's when we're changing, when we're evolving, when we're growing,
Mhm.
we're not meant to stay in the same circles all the time. We're not meant to stay
Right.
with the same people all the time. And I think that that's been a huge lesson over the years for both Sherry and I. And
Yeah.
when you spoke about forgiveness, I love that you touched on that because personally, I've had to forgive people in my past. I've also had to forgive myself. So I'm really, really glad that you mentioned that. Like self-forgiveness is powerful. And it's almost like the best way I could describe it is when you don't forgive and you're holding on to the hurt, the pain, the grief, it's
Right.
almost as though you're piling on backpacks and bags and
Right.
luggage and you're trying to go from chapter to chapter carrying and you just keep bringing
Right.
all, it's like a bunch of weight that's holding you down. But the moment that you decide to like set it down, you're free.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's the best way that I can
Yeah.
almost like describe forgiveness is when you truly forgive and it is for yourself but when you do
Mhm.
truly forgive you're free and
Mhm.
it's powerful.
Yeah.
You spoke earlier about you got to live like I like this you got to live life like you're terminally ill.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love
Like yes,
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. So
Yep.
I have to ask you this. Okay, out of all of the readings that you've done, and as a psychic medium, you're communicating with individuals with spirits who have passed on, who have departed from this physical plane. What is the main message that you hear over and over from these past loved ones, from these spirits who have departed from this physical plane?
I wish I wouldn't have been so scared to do the things I wanted to do in my life. I wish
Oh,
I wouldn't have just worked the job because I had to pay the bills and never took the trip because I couldn't afford it or thought I couldn't. They're the ones that tell me you got to live like you're dying, not to fear departure. Because
Mm.
Albert Einstein even says energy doesn't die, it just changes form. And so quantum physics, metaphysics, that's why a lot of people, they may think this is foo foo woo woo or they're skeptical, but like this, that's my college, like this has been studied for hundreds of years. We should all embrace this concept because we're all leaving and we don't need to fear it. We need to talk about it. And I think it's not about the departure that you need to worry about. It's about not living that you need to worry about. It's about not doing what you wanted to do. And so that's why the people come in and they say, take that trip and book that thing and run that business and
Wow.
call that person that you need to call and offer your apology. If they take it, good. If they don't, doesn't matter. It's your freedom, or say what you need to say. Speak yourself from the truth. Release people that don't matter, like we were saying. When you were saying that about releasing people, that was a big part of it too, is they tell me it doesn't matter if it's your mom or your dad or your child or your sibling or whoever it is. If they do not align to your highest and best good, if they bring you down or make you feel bad, just because you're biologically connected to someone doesn't mean you spiritually have to stay connected to them as well. Sometimes we're just put here, science and God can only mix so much. So they tell me it's okay you're not talking to your mom. That's all right. You're not supposed to. She's not treating you correctly. So you have to stay disconnected for your own well-being. Don't be mad at that person. Don't hate that person. But one thing that I love that Tyler Perry said, and I use this all the time, I always copy this from his speech, so I hope that's okay. I'm allowed to do this. But he was giving a speech and he said, I'm going to leave you with this, that all of us are like a rocket ship. And when a rocket ship is going up, it has boosters on it. And when it reaches a certain elevation, the boosters break off because it doesn't need those boosters anymore and it can't go where they're going. So it's like people in our life are like boosters, or like even like leaves of a tree in a season, and they're going to fall away and then you'll grow new leaves and new friends and new colleagues and new people. I mean, you could imagine going into this mediumship journey. I started with I used to have back in the day, like high school, college. I mean, I still love all my friends. But I had a lot of friends that I had to communicate on a lot of basis, or on a normal basis, I should say. And now I'm a very small circle. I still have plenty of people I'd like to talk to, but I keep my inner workings very small. And I think that it's not for me to hide from people or, anything. I protect my energy and I only share it with those closest to me that I know will encourage me and uplift me and make me feel good. When you spread yourself too thin with people who are draining your energy or treating you badly, you have to let that go. So that's something Spirit's really taught me over the years, is let people go. You can't say, oh, that's your family, or that's not healthy, because not everybody has a great mom or dad or sibling or whatever. So be comfortable in surrounding yourself with only your highest and best people, and that's their biggest thing, is have no fear. The mind is part of the human experience. That's the ego. That's the human part. Your spirit knows, but when you can't find it, it's because you're too mentally disconnected to find your soul. And that's why you don't know where you're going, what your purpose is. It's because you're too focused on your earth experience and not your spirit's experience here on
Wow.
earth.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to share this
Sorry.
because
I get deep.
I
Okay.
I meditated the other day, and actually what you're saying came through. Was basically I was detached from everything. I was just a soul, but I was detached from all my responsibilities, the people in my life, everything. I was just, and I could zoom out and I could
Yeah.
see my next step
Yeah.
or what I needed to do on the physical. So it was like, if we can detach, do you feel like
Yes.
that part of
Yes.
it is
Yes.
detaching and
Love that.
releasing
Yes.
all control?
And I'm only here for a little while, so I better start living.
Yeah.
I better start doing. I gotta quit putting off that trip or changing or doing my own. I could see when people want to do a food truck. I always wanted my own food truck. Or something, do it.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, but work towards it. Don't put life on hold. Just waiting for it to come to you. You got to start making that happen, that momentum happen, and the universe will answer. But if you stay in the, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't think I could do it, you're not going to leave
Right.
it until you get that better mindset.
Yeah, it's all
Change your
about
mind,
that,
you're gonna
yeah.
change your life. Yeah.
You're right. I think
So
I love this conversation so much.
Yeah, you're
I know,
fine.
and it's there's so many questions too, and
I know, we have to do a part 2.
yeah, and I want to share, we want to share a little bit more about your book, and then also how people can
Mhm.
find your book and your
Okay.
tour. But super quick, you mentioned about our souls already kind of knowing beforehand.
Yeah.
Possible that our souls, before we actually depart, it could
Mhm,
be literally a month or 2 months before we know we're about to depart, can it
mhm.
go and visit our loved ones?
We do every night when we sleep.
What?
So when you sleep, it's called astral projection or
Okay.
astral travel. And so your soul is connected through this thing called a silver cord, and you come in and out of your crown chakra through the top of your head. So your silver cord stays connected to the solar plexus where you're connected to your soul. So as you're floating around, and in metaphysical terms, you look like you're on the silver cord floating around. So when you go into an astral state, that's why so many people in your area of the country, when it's 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, have the most spiritual activity during those times because everybody's energy is rested. And now they can be seen. When everything's all busy and chaotic in the day, you can't see it. But when everyone's rested, they have the opportunity because the energy is now controlled. So during that time, you will leave your body. Now, sometimes you remember visitations from your loved ones in spirit, having the conversations. My friend fell off a cruise ship. I love him so much. He fell off a cruise ship back in 2000, and he was very close friends with me. He was at my house constantly in high school. We got on Dan DePaze. And so he would come over, and when he passed, there was this dream I had, and at school we sat at the lunch table together every day for a senior year. And when I had the dream, we were at the lunch table, but we were on a boat, and it was kind of like the boat from Jaws. I don't know why, but we were like in a little cabin, and I'm like seeing everybody. I was like, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, you're visiting me. And I said, wait a minute. You died. He goes, well, yeah, but I'm still here. And I said, wait, how can you still be here? He's like, how are you, Laura? I said, I'm good, man. We miss you, you know? Holy shit, it's good to see you, DeBase. And then I woke up and I was like, wait, I want to go back and see him again.
God.
But it was just him saying, we're at the table, we're hanging out, you know? And so every dream you have is a visitation. They're real. If it scares you, it's not. That's your mind, okay? If it's a scary dream about a departure, your loved one having, that's just your fear of the cognizance of them crossing over. It's a pleasant, warm, sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't, sometimes you just see them for a moment, but it's just a way, it feels good for them to acknowledge that they're present. So I would tell you that a lot of people sometimes people may have a premonition of their departure, but most of us don't know, like until we get to that moment, like, oh, this is my time and I'm okay with it. But in the meantime, on the way, you know, every day and every sleep we have the opportunity to talk to them. So one thing that you can practice when you go to sleep, if you would like a visitation, is asking them to come. Not seeking it as like, please, please, please come. That's too much energy. That's too much. That's why people that grieve when I do an audience reading and they're going, pick me. I don't pick them.
Right.
I pick the guy over here who's going, what time is it? Why am I here? What did my wife put
Yeah.
me here? I'll end up getting him because he's chill. Say the energy's easier. But when you're all at this, so if you just say, come see me, I want to visit you, I'd love to see you in a dream. You could ask them those things, but sorry, that was a long answer. But it's basically like we astral travel every night. We sometimes remember it. 98% of the times we don't. But people can be lucid dreamer and remember their dreams. And if you can be a lucid dreamer, if you're watching this, take that to your advantage, because that means you're aware you're dreaming in your dream. And then you can control it and make it whatever you want. And very few people can do that. I've been told by a medium at Lilydale that I can do that. I'm still working on it. I stopped myself one time in a dream. I went, okay, I'm in a dream. And then everybody froze in the dream. And they said, look at the shoes. Like, you're supposed to look at their shoes for like the time period that you're in. Isn't that funky? If you look at
That's
people's
so
shoes,
cool.
yeah.
It's
So if you can ever
fascinating.
catch yourself in a dream, see if you can manipulate it. It's
Oh
pretty
my
cool.
Oh.
It's wild. It's hard to do, but I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I
My
want.
10-year-old says he does that.
He
Like
can just do what he wants in his
he
dream.
knows he's in a dream. So
Yeah,
he'll be like,
that's so
I'm gonna manipulate the dream. He does that. I'm like,
yeah, you can
you
go
do
wherever you
that.
want. You can call your family in spirit in. If you could really focus and
That'd
concentrate,
be
you can talk
cool.
to them. You could do a lot of things, but it's a hard concept. See, he's just chill. Your 10-year-old's just chill. So
That
that's
is
why he's like,
so
yeah,
cool.
whatever. Yeah,
So
that's
cool.
my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old. He's very psychic. He's very intuitive.
So
But
Can
he's
did
you
just
were you
visit
born
other
with this?
planes in dreams? Like,
what's that?
can you visit other planes, other like dimensions? Like, is that a
Yeah.
possibility?
I feel so, and it's interesting because they're unrecognizable. There's colors in spirit, and a lot of people say this, that you can't see here because our retina is only built to see certain colors, and that's just the thing. Like, other animals can see other colors too. So I've heard that when you're at another realm or you do oh yeah, absolutely. There are so many other things. When you go to sleep, you can go to these other dimensions, but I feel like when you remember it, you can't even describe, because your brain as a human can't comprehend what you just saw. Your spirit knows, but your brain's like, wait a minute, that wasn't a color. I can't even describe what color that was because it's not a thing,
Oh,
you know?
wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wanted to know if you were born with this, like if you knew when you were little.
Right. So my belief, again, past lives, we've all done a lot of things. Okay.
Mhm.
So you come back with the abilities that you've done previously. So like a 4-year-old can start playing the piano like he's Beethoven. And you're going, how
Your
how
daughter.
does this kid do that? Yeah. They just start going, blah, 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 blah. and just start doing it. And you're like, wow, you're really good at that. Well, they've done it like a
Oh my
million times.
god.
That's why I'm good at being a medium. See, they would have called me a witch. I was a witch back in those days because I was doing,
Right.
the medicines and all the things. And so, it's something that you keep carrying your traits and your abilities. That's why some people are really good at scientists or some people are really good at this. It's like even soldiers have been soldiers. That's why they're wanting to be a soldier again. They've already done it like a million times in other lives.
Yeah.
So everybody has a purpose, a protector, a healer, a teacher, a medical person. Everybody has an ability. So I say
Mhm.
you're born with abilities and then the gift is giving it away. So you're not like just
Oh.
born with this gift, you're born with this ability to do something. And then once you master your ability, it's supposed to be given away to others for it to be appreciated. So like there's a great quote that I share. It's my very first
That's
Instagram
good.
meme that I ever shared on Instagram. And it said, a tree doesn't, drink its own water. A flower doesn't smell itself. We're here for
Yeah.
others.
Okay, yeah.
But I do believe that like my great aunt Millie was a medium. By the way, I'll share this picture with you because I have her book right here. This is my great aunt Millie, who was a medium in the 30s and 40s. This is called spirit photography. She was in a black room with
Wow.
Robert Chady, who was a spirit photographer. He actually has stuff in the Library of Congress that has been verified. There's no AI here, people. No AI here. So she was in a room. She meditated, my great aunt Millie, and these are spirits that came in around her.
Oh my god.
And so, and then Mary Lynn, that's my cousin Mary Lynn. This is her book. But this is, something that I think that sometimes families have generations of doctors, generations of lawyers. It doesn't always go that way. Generations of mediums. It's like your abilities getting passed through the physical as well as the spiritual experience. So it's like you're all kind of sharing it. So my son definitely, and my daughter too, they both have abilities,
Wow.
but I'm just not, I want them to be kids. So that's another
Yeah.
thing for anybody here that has kids who are sensitive, intuitive, psychic, or aware or feel spirits, to encourage them that they are always loving. There are guides and teachers and they're ones that are welcome. And you say, if you're not with the light, you can't be in my energy. And it's that simple and they will not be in energy. But for
Mhm.
people to say, I want my son to learn or daughter to learn how to be a psychic or medium at a young age, I encourage that to not do that. Because they're very gullible, they're very susceptible. Let them develop their abilities as they age and they can appropriately, diagnose like what they're learning and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's good for them to have those feelings.
Can a normal person learn it if you
Yes,
aren't born with
everybody's psychic. Everybody has a third eye. All right. This is what I say that gets people to laugh. I tell people before we started reading, I give them a whole little spiel about this is the psychic part, this is the medium part. Because I laugh when people are like, oh, she's a psychic. She talks to the spirits. I'm like, no, that's a medium. A psychic reads your life and your energy in the now. And that's something we can all do. You've met people and you go, I don't like you right away, or I don't like their energy, or I love their energy. Like you guys were attracted to me, right? And so you love the energy. And so that is intuitive awareness, is being able to read the energy of the room, read the energy of people you meet. Animals are extremely intuitive. That's why a dog will growl at one person and they'll wag their tail and smile at another. They can tell the energy.
Mm.
And so it's, and that's something that we can all do. But there's 3 stages that I like to say of the third eye. This is just my personal thing. This is not in any literature. Okay. You got the closed third eye. Don't believe it. Think it's all bullshit. Don't have any attachment to the spiritual, nothing. They're working, their money. They're just based off of how can I succeed as a human. They're in the physical experience. Then you got 98% of us, half open third eye. I call it the stoner third eye. It's like a little half open third eye. And that allows like you're kind of believing there's something more. Like you were saying, a little skeptical. Beautiful. Want you to be skeptical. Too many people pretending to do this so that they know and they don't get education. But there's the part that's like there's something more, and then you're having your human experience. And then you get to the next part, like me, where you meditate, you do things like practicing, spiritual awareness through prayer or breath work or nature. And when you meditate and you align your chakras and you get get into your alignment, then all of a sudden the third eye opens way more. And now you're really intuitive. Now you're seeing angel numbers everywhere. You're getting phone call after you just thought of somebody. You're seeing signs all over the place. When you open up your intuition by meditation and stuff and open up the third eye, you can become extremely intuitive. So that's something everybody can do. We can't all be a medium. Like I can't be a brain surgeon or a violin player. Okay. Hey, that's not my abilities. That's not what I'm doing here. So mediumship is a learned and trait ability like anything else, but being intuitive and psychic is something that everybody can develop. Everybody can get their intuition grown, and it's accepting it too. You got to be open to it. But
Yeah.
my shut third eyes, those are the ones that think I'm a little too much, and that's okay.
They can
'Cause
go and find a little less,
that's
right?
their
Yeah.
energy. They're gonna find people on that energy, right? I like you. I think you're great.
Laura Lynn, why don't you tell us a little bit about like the book,
Okay.
what inspired you to write the book, and a little bit of like what are the takeaways? of the book.
Okay, so this is my book called Awakening, Finding the Light. It is the story of my journey through my mental health processes to get to where I am today. So it's not my next book will be about my mediumship. This one is about the processes that it took for me to free myself as a human being to get more in touch with my soul. So something I find very important that I talk about in the book and that I'm trying to do on this tour is I start with an hour of lecture about the book and the mental health and talking about my own life, spilling the tea on Laura Lynn. Because sometimes when people see me, they're like, "Oh, she's this happy-go-lucky. She's been like." Well, I've been through a lot to get to this space, and I'm going to tell you about it because I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know that all of us go through something. Everybody has somebody. Everybody's got mental health. Usually, if we admit it or not, that's a whole nother thing. But you know, but acknowledging it and inspiring to be better or get it addressed is something I want to encourage everybody. We shouldn't hide behind, and I'm going to say choosing our own departure, because the S word is very hard with TikTok or other places, because you hear that and people like, I'm comfortable in saying it because I had those experiences, and that's what I talk about in my book, is when I was younger and felt all these feelings. And when you're in your teenage years and your hormones are going and you have the weight of the world on you. I mean, social media just barely started when I was in like 8th grade going into high school. That's when like we had the dial up, with AOL and stuff. And now these kids can see everything across the world. They're seeing things they probably
Mhm.
shouldn't see. It's a very different world now. And so I was very heavy in my mental health, and I was suicidal. And I'm going to say that word, but I was like ready to choose my own departure. So I did overdose twice. And I talk about those experiences and what the people were like around me, and how some places I had help, even like my parents didn't know how to help me. I say this with love when I say boomers, by the way, because I love my parents, but they grew up in a time like their parents from World War II. Like everybody was like, you work, you don't cry, you're not a baby, you do this. And there was no mental health embracing. So you just deal with your shit and you just keep going. Like but now there's so many, like our children, and you girls relate to this, that they're so empathetic and compassionate and kind and bright. And this whole generation's going to enlighten the world. And
Mhm.
so what I'm trying to do with my book is enlighten people who are still here in our generation, to let you know that you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's in my book. And so the main concepts we talk about in here, my first chapter, actually, I'm going to read you the title of it because it's kind of funny, but it's supposed to be. But it says depression, doctors, and drugs. Oh my. And so I talk about like how I went through counseling. I tried, medication. I did that, but it just kind of numbed me, and then I couldn't feel anything. And then
Mhm.
when I could feel stuff, it was too much. And so I had to learn how to balance that, and nothing seemed to be working. So then I go in and talk about how I had to learn about fear and releasing fears. The college helped me a lot with that. I had to do forgiveness. I had to understand, how to offer that to others and myself. That was a huge concept for me. And then understanding energy and the aura, and understanding how energy goes from one person to the other. You could be having a great day and your spouse comes home in a shitty mood, and now all of a sudden you're in a shitty mood because his energy or more often is hers. Or you're having a bad day and someone's having a good day, and now you're putting it off onto someone else or your children. So energy is real. It comes 3 feet off our body, called the aura, and I have a whole chapter on that. But understanding your energy, releasing fears, forgiveness, the law of attraction's in there. I tell my story about the Wheel of Fortune. I even have my little picture here in it right there with me and good old Pat. And my
Oh my
moment of winning. So
god, I
that's in the
love
book as
that.
well. Yep, that's in the book. And I tell the story about how I got there, like I did with you girls. Yep. And then the last chapter is about meditation and all kinds of different ways to do meditation. Because most of the
Mhm.
time when I tell people they're going to meditate, like when Mary Lynn said that to me, I just started laughing. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to meditate. Like, and I joke with people, I say, hey, listen, if this energy can meditate, anybody can meditate.
Wow.
Meditation is the most successful people in the world meditate. It doesn't have to be some like, saying ohms and crisscross and all those things. Like there's so many different ways. So I talk about the different types of meditation in here. And I kind of just break down mental health in an understanding way, in an authentic way,
Mm.
in a no bullshit kind of way. And even when I talk to the audience, I joke with them, and I want everyone to just I want us, let me say it in this way, in the most loving way. I just want us all to get our shit together. I just want us
Mhm.
to have a better experience on earth, because we're all leaving and we're spending so much time dwelling on what isn't happening yet or hasn't happened or what happened to us before. And it's like, we just got to get going. We got to let all this go. We got so much more to do. And if you keep doing that stuff, you're never going to find your full potential. And so I
Mm.
talk about that for an hour, and then we go into a mediumship, because I'm a medium, just like you girls did a little piece of that action too, because it's a beautiful process. I think it helps your mental health by having a reading. I had a woman
Yeah.
tell me, Laura Lynn,
Yeah.
I've been in therapy. She lost her son. She said, I've been in therapy for 13 years. I only needed an hour with you. And that was very humbling. It was very pleasing. It was very healing for me, too,
Wow.
to know that my connection with the details for her son to show her that he's still around healed her. For him to say, please don't do the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Don't do the what ifs.
Yeah.
Don't do those what ifs, Mom. It's okay. I'm still here. I'm not missing anything. And we still miss their physical presence. That's okay. Grief is a very hard thing. It takes time. But to be able to heal that and to do mediumship for the audience. So first I let them get to know me a little bit with this, loosen them up a little bit. Then that breaks up the energy, makes everybody laugh, and then I can connect to spirit. So we had great readings in Youngstown and Buffalo so far. We've made some really beautiful connections. So that's what we do, and that's what my book's about. So I'm just trying to help people with their mental health. It's not meant for just somebody trying to be a psychic or medium. I think if you can adapt to even a couple things in this book and change a little bit in what you're doing, because remember, if you want life to change, you got to change. It's not going to change until you start it. If you want to keep living on the same thing, then just that's your choice.
Cycle.
I do readings. I say you got a choice. You're going to get off this call. You're going to make the changes they suggested, or you're going to go ahead and do what you're still doing. That's up to you.
Get your
And the best thing for my book is ordering it off my website if you're in the US. So my Canadian friends that are listening, I love you and I'm sorry. But the shipping to get it to Canada right now costs more than the book. Coming from me for a signed copy. You can order a signed copy on my website, which is mediumlauralynn.com. But my international friends, there's my publisher. Where is it? It's called Balboa Press. Sorry, it's backwards. But balboapress.com. You can order it in Australia. You can order it in the UK. You can order it from anywhere through there. I don't know if it's available. Sometimes like Amazon orders stock of books, but they don't have them in stock all the time. And like a little author like myself. So once I get to Oprah status and I got a million copies in there, I'm sure you could get it on there. But yeah, there's other outlets you can order, Barnes and Noble and things like that too. But if you'd like a signed copy and you're in the US, please just go to my website and I'll get you a signed copy.
Yeah, and some of our soul sisters are located all over the US. So we also want to just let you all know that Laura Lynn is doing her book tour right now too.
Yes.
She's visiting a few places in the US. And we can share your website too. So
Yes,
they can
I
get
will
the
be.
details.
Yep. I'll be in Tampa, Florida on April 8th. And then I'm going to be in Phoenix, Arizona, April 17th, and Sedona, Arizona on the 19th. So I have never been to Sedona, but I've heard so many wonderful things. So I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Amazing.
I have one last question before you leave. Okay. So you are starring in your very own movie. It's your movie, box office.
Okay.
What is the name of that movie and why?
It's funny you say that. I recently had a reading with a celebrity, and I let her know. I was like, my life would make a great documentary. I was like, if you did my life, it would be a great documentary. But if I had a movie about myself, it would be called Making a Medium. And I would show the process of how I was sensitive from the time I was a child, my experiences as a sensitive person, an empathic person, and I would show the journey of how everything lined up to be where I am today. Because, like I said, some people assume that like mediumship is just something you know how to do, or you just, it just pops into your energy. And it kind of did, but learning and becoming a medium has been such a process, and it's a lot to do because, I have to experience and empathize with people who have lost children, babies, lots of different departures. And so I carry the weight with them. And so it's something been humbling. And I feel like if I made a movie about making a medium and showing you who I am and where I've come from, I just feel like people would look at it differently. Because some people immediately get mad when you say you're a medium or soon, because that's how they were raised. They were raised to be taught that this isn't wonderful or great, or, or they do the Bible. But I remind them in the Bible that Jesus says, anything I can do, you can also do even better than I can do it. And so he says, he talks to the angels with Joseph. They go to them for guidance and help. And if you're doing it in a healthy, holistic, good way to help people and heal them, not scare them, not upset them, then that's what it's supposed to be. And if I could make a movie showing people that I'm just a mom, single mom, I bust my ass, I go to baseball games and I go to lacrosse and I don't start reading people in the middle of the grocery store. I'm turned on, I clock in, I clock out. Okay, I'm not Teresa Caputo. That's a TV thing. I don't clock in and clock out. I do clock in and clock out. I don't just start reading people at the bakery. Okay, that's not how this works. They know she's coming. She's really a medium. She's wonderful. But they signed her waiver saying they're going to be on TV. So it's not. So I don't want to break. I want to make sure people understand that. If you meet me, like a lot of times, like people might want me to say something, which you totally fine. This is exactly what I was here for. But you have to understand I'm a human too. You know, I'm a
Mhm.
mom and I'm
Mhm.
sensitive and I cry and I get mad and I teach and preach mental health and I'm still working on it myself. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the movie would be about, is to stay authentic to yourself and to understand that we're all humans. We're all going through ups and downs. We all have our things. And so
Mhm.
when you think the world's imploding on you and it's so heavy, just know that there's other people feeling the same way you do. And there's just something that brings some comfort in that, to say, I'm never alone. You always have loved ones in the spirit. And you always have people around you. So my movie would definitely show my journey up to this point and just show people it's not as scary as you're making it. Like, just relax and take a deep breath and live your life and know that we're all going back to the same blue bayou. We got to say, what are you doing while you're here? And that's what's most
Mhm.
important. When you get back over there, they're going to say, were you happy with what you did? And that's up to you for how you're going to answer that.
I
Wow.
can
Yeah.
see that movie right now.
I'm
Mhm.
sold. Like, when is it released? Like, you
It's so much
sold it.
fun.
Like, getting
Yeah.
to know you, a piece of you
Mhm.
today, just even like, yeah, you already sold it.
And then one other thing to add, just to close it out, because I think this is really important, because I'm very open about this. I have an ex-fiance, an ex-husband, and an ex I thought I was going to marry. So that's 3, right? A lot of people, this is for the women, look at you and say, well, maybe it's her. Maybe it's her, Maybe I'm the common denominator here. But this is what I want to tell women who have gone through struggles in their relationships, especially romantically, before we go here today. Speaking of the making a movie, because that would be a huge part of my movie. Huge part is all the partners I had and the pain and the leaving. Because when you depart from a partner, it feels like they departed. It feels like, that could be very grief stricken. So for the women who struggle, know that you are strong and that it is not you. It is your strength that keeps you moving and keeps you grooving. And I want your boundaries to be right here, girlfriend. Oh, actually up here. Let's go all the way up. Because when you're strong and you're in control, that deflects narcissists. When you're weak and you're low, it
Yeah.
attracts them. They take advantage of the weak. So you are not weak and you have not failed. You have succeeded because you said, I won't accept it. My boundaries are here, and that's what I'm going to accept. That doesn't make me controlling. That makes me smart. Okay, so for all the women, I just want to throw that out there too, because that would be a big part of my mediumship journey, is who supports you and who doesn't. So only keep those people around you that support you and love you.
What a
Always.
beautiful way.
Much. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Laura Lynn, thank you so much. I don't know about you, Sherry. I feel like we're both thinking the same thing. Like, it just was not enough time for
No.
us to
I
be
know.
able to
No.
have
I
all that we
appreciate all the
wanted
time
to.
and effort.
No.
Thank you so much.
Okay, soul sister, pause what you're doing for just 1 second.
If you've been feeling disconnected from the old version of you, like you've outgrown old rooms, old ways of doing things, and doing everything alone, we see you.
And let's be real, social media doesn't give us real connection anymore. Support feels tied to algorithms, numbers, and who's, quote unquote, performing the best. We've been there too.
And we know this. Your brilliance, your impact, your voice deserves to be seen, validated, and celebrated.
And that's why we built the Soul Sisters community, a space where women who are done shrinking evolve together side by side. Come experience monthly live calls with us, real conversations, collaboration, support, and sisterhood that actually fills your cup.
So, if you're ready to step into this new version of you and grow alongside women who get it, head to the link in our show notes and come join us.
Because expansion looks better together.